videos in here as well, so we're hoping that those are going to play. Where is the little clicker thing? Is that the clicker? Okay. I did, and I've never used this one before, so if my slides start just spastically going, just bear with me. So show me, don't tell me. So you want to actually create a memorable message, right? Well, it's simple. You just create an emotional connection. There we go. This is pretty easy. How do you create an emotional connection with your audience? Well, that is simple as well. You do a little storytelling. You avoid jargon, and you document your journey starting now. If you're a PR professional, start documenting your entrepreneur story starting right now. Because as you can imagine, as a reporter, I want to see lots and lots and lots of jargon. I love those pitches that say, I have the next revolutionary product. I have the next game changer. I have the next leading online platform for you. And I will tell you what, I have an amazing thought leader that's just going to rock your world. Those ones, I don't know if you can read those, but those are actual pitches that I've received over the last week. They are still using, I don't know how many times, you have heard from reporters, and I'm sure Kara Swisher has actually told you as well, please stay away from the jargon, and yet it's still in just about every pitch that I get, any formal press release that I get. Show me, don't tell me. Show me why your product is revolutionary. Show me why your client or why you are the best thought leader in a particular industry or a particular marketplace. Show me why you are a game changer. I was recently at an amazing art exhibit. It was called The Girl with the Pearl Earring. And I don't know if any of you have seen it. It was over at the Dionne Museum here in San Francisco. And it actually got me thinking about artists and storytelling and how they create and send a message. How do they do that? They paint a picture. Very rarely do you actually see more than just a title or a headline on each work of art. Maybe a one-line description. But what's the most powerful thing about art is what? It's interpretation. Art creates an emotional connection between the artist and those who view it, because interpretation gives people the opportunity to actually create their own feelings about it. That creates an emotional connection, and that is what will stick with your viewers or your readers and keep them coming back for more. And that is what actually creates an Emmy Award-winning interview. It's the ability to create an emotional connection with your audience. It's what, as I said, it keeps people coming back for more. Give your viewers the opportunity to interpret your message through storytelling. Storytelling is the most powerful tool that you have in your tool chest. And it is a tool that has been perfected by Ido Leffler. Oops. There we go. Ido Leffler is the CEO of a company called Yes2. It's the #2 natural beauty products brand in the United States. How many of you have ever seen Yes2? And so, yeah, have you heard of Ido? He is the most amazing storyteller I have ever had. I've ever interviewed, probably in my 19-year career. He's absolutely amazing. And we're going to look at some clips to actually show you some amazing storytelling techniques. Now, as a company, you're always asked some foundational questions, right? Pretty much every interview. What does your company do? Who are you? What is your brand? What is your message? And Ido Leffler could have simply told me, you know, I make beauty products that are 99.9% natural. Our name reflects the positive spirit of the company. And I wear orange because our first product was Yes to Carrots. But he doesn't do that. He actually shows me. And I don't know how to press play. Do you want me to try it from up here and press just one of these random buttons? Let me see if I can do it. It's going to be in the left-hand corner. If you go to the slide, and in the left-hand corner down there, and just click on it, it'll come up. Click in the black, down in the left-hand corner. Oh, maybe that one's not going to come up.
I think I saw it below.
Yeah, it should. It has to be on the black screen. Oh, well that'll be very depressing if you can't see it, because it's actually a really compelling interview. Tell you, okay. Let me just try clicking a couple buttons. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, so basically, so Ito, when he talks about his brand, he is pretty much dressed in orange, head to toe. I don't know if you've ever seen him in person, but everything, so orange, yes, it represents the Yes to Carrots, and Yes to, and Carrots was his first brand. But he got the idea that he wanted to just totally be his brand from head to toe. From his watch is bright orange. His shoes, at the bottom of his shoes, bright orange. It actually wore orange. His cell phone cover, it is orange. And so you can actually see, his brand just right there in front of him. And when he talks about how he developed Yes To as a name of his company, he tells you the story, or, I hate the word tell, but he basically shows you why by telling a story of how when he was younger, he lived in a very, very positive household with his parents and his family, and everything was yes, and you never heard the word no. So that's why he wanted to create a very positive brand and a very positive name, and Yes To actually represented. And when he talks more about the inspiration about how he runs his company, he talks about Richard Branson, how Richard Branson is his idol. And he talks about the book that he read by Richard Branson, Losing My Virginity, which had an impact on him and is actually represented in his culture. So that is how he talks about his company. Next one is Show Me Your Journey. This one I think is the... Oh, you actually have the video? I'm sorry about this. I was really excited to actually show you this, especially this particular video clip, because I think he's a lot of fun.
Say yes to anticipation.
I know. Well, are we going to have it, or should I move on? Okay. Move on. Okay. Hopefully the next clip will actually work for you. So next, a reporter may want to hear about your actual journey. Ito, could have said, we had a really rough road. We had a bunch of obstacles that we had to actually overcome. He could have, talked about, it was just really tough to bring our product to market, but we finally persevered and we beat the odds and we became the #2 natural beauty products brand in the United States. It's pretty boring. But instead, he decided to show us by talking about one of his biggest, what could have been one of his biggest failures at his company in his entire career, actually. Okay, can we try playing this one? Oh, it did. I was playing it actually on my computer. Okay. No? Okay. So we're going to go back to all the examples. So basically, I think you get the picture. I was just going to go into and actually, show you versus tell you how to become a better storyteller. But basically, how do you actually create the Emmy Award-winning interview? How do you become that Emmy Award-winning interviewee? How do you become that ultimate storyteller? It pretty much starts right now. You need to document your journey. Every conversation, every experience, every milestone.
It's everywhere.
There you go.
Orange was just a way to stand out, and I don't know, it just caught on. I wore orange in that first meeting we had with Walgreens.
With Walgreens, and I talked to the director of marketing at Walgreens, and she was saying when you walked in the door, I mean, they were a very formal workplace, and then here's this guy, Ito, who walks in with orange head to toe, except you don't wear orange pants. I'm really curious about that.
I have one pair of orange pants, and they look so terrible. I can't even begin to tell you. I wore them to one event, never again. I even shocked myself.
So where did this all come from? I mean, who did you model yourself after? It just didn't just come to you one morning, I would imagine. I'm just going to wear orange today.
I grew up in a family where everything was positive. Everything was about yes. My parents had made a ton of money growing up and lost it all. And
wow.
Even when we lost everything and we were down to our last dime and I was taken out of my school and we were moved to a different house, my parents were always yes people. And my dad, when I must have been in my early 20s, gave me a book to read. And the book was Losing My Virginity by Richard Branson. I looked at how he built his brand, and it was all about really creating the stories, create the jumping out of the plane, the jumping on the balloon ride, whatever it was, being number one and challenging and being a positive aggressor in the market.
But truly embracing who you are and then creating a culture around that.
Look, I'm a bald guy that sells hair care, for God's sakes.
Okay, you have to admit that was much better. His account was much better than mine, right? So hopefully we can get the next few clips up as well, because I think that you'll enjoy seeing how Ito Leffler describes his company and describes his journey. And the journey is really the biggest part, I think, of every single interview. And he, as I said, he could have talked about, whoops, here, let me go back. Well, it's now not going to let me do it, is it? Okay, we will just move on. Okay. There's the journey. So basically, as we talked about, he could have talked about it just being a rough road, tough to get to the top, the fact that he simply persevered, but instead he decided to share the details of what could have been one of the biggest failures of his entire career and could have actually meant the end of Yes To. So now we're going to go to the next slide with the video. Hopefully. There we are. Yes?
Wasn't in our vocabulary at the time, because I looked at it. Have you ever played Monopoly?
Mm-hmm.
In Monopoly, when you roll the dice and you go around that board, no matter what you land on, you buy it. And we wanted to be on every shelf that was worthwhile.
But you didn't have any money.
But,
I mean, at first, you had barely $1 million from selling your other company.
we were so naive that the first time...
You took these huge risks.
Well, the first time we got our order from Walgreens for what was 800 of each item to go on their online trial, 16 products. And I thought that was a no-brainer. We could do that easily. We had plenty of time. And I get a call the night before to look at my order. And at the time I had an old Nokia phone. And I'm scrolling through this email and the numbers look wrong. I didn't understand. So I called up the logistics people in America and I said, what's going on? And said, no, the numbers are right. We were wrong. They didn't place 800 units of each item. They placed 800 cases of each item. We're talking 9,600 units of product. Talk about panic. So yeah, we were a little bit naive.
So I think that exemplifies the fact that he's very candid, he's very transparent, and as an interviewee, you can't be afraid to truly share your journey, share your failures, share your almost failures, share how you've actually overcome them, and actually show them by telling the story. It is so incredibly compelling. And as you noticed, he uses a cliche I would suggest never using, which is monopoly. You can use analogies, but don't be surprised that a reporter will in fact follow up and challenge you on it. Be prepared with a personal example. Personalize it. Bring it home to you and show us personally how that actual cliche or that analogy actually comes to life for you. Okay, I have one more example if it'll actually come up. Okay, we're going to see if this one will actually come up. So I think that this one is the most important one because every single reporter will ask you about sizing up. Who is your competition? How do you size up against the competition? So show us why you're truly different. Show us how you will earn that #1 status and prove it to us. Prove to us why your competition actually fears you now or will fear you in the future, because if they don't care about you, why should we? So do you think that you can keep up at this pace? Sometimes a gimmick can last, 4 years, but how do you make this orange and culture thing sustainable so that you can, get to really be ultra competitive with Burt's Bees at $200 million a year?
Well, we're already there.
$40 to $60 million in revenue versus $200 million in revenue.
I can tell you that they're pretty stressed. One of the reasons why we know they're pretty stressed, they're coming out with a new brand right now, which is specifically angled towards us. And we know that because they just mentioned it actually in some press last week. And in specific categories, skincare, for example, we're really up there. And I think that the next level for us, now that we've got the team, now that we've been able to professionalize it, it's to really make sure that we stay very true to our culture. And that's how we're going to win.
Do you see how he shows? He not only says, okay, the competition is stressed, but he shows us that they're stressed by the products that they're putting on the market. That is so much more compelling. So really, when you're talking about the competition, look for statistics, look for actions, look for things that you can actually show us. So how do you actually do this yourself? How do you start the art of storytelling? Well, it begins now. It begins right in this moment. Start documenting your journey now. Document your conversations. Document your experiences. Document your milestones. Use the voice memo app on your phone, and after you have an amazing conversation that is ultimately going to, change the direction of your company, or it could have some sort of impact on your life, document it. Talk right into your voice memo, and then send that voice memo to your virtual assistant. Send it to your assistant. Send it to a transcription service, such as SpeechPad is actually one of my favorites that I use. And then what you need to do is take those transcriptions and start logging them. Send them to a PR person, PR folks. Make sure that you're collecting all of these. Encourage your entrepreneurs, your clients to do this on a daily basis, because it'll give you the ability to actually organize all of those thoughts, all of those experiences, all of those milestones and conversations actually into themes. And that's incredibly important. I'm going to see if I have control of the clicker. There we go. One of my former colleagues, Brent Nelson, he worked over at Forbes, wrote this amazing article. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it doesn't have as many views as I think it really should. So I would imagine that many of you haven't seen it. It's called What Makes a Good Business Story. And Forbes, as well as every other reporter, is looking for compelling characters. They're looking for compelling themes. They're looking for those themes that you've been collecting all those elements of in order to help their readers learn lessons, from a particular entrepreneur or a particular company. They want those entrepreneurs, they want those companies, they want those stories that their viewers can actually relate to. Here are a few examples that he gave actually in his thing. The path to kitchen-friendly pancakes, how a company cracked the frozen food aisle at Walmart. that is about the journey, not the product, it's about the journey. Another one about the journey, how a capital-starved entrepreneur thrives using a bizarre financial structure. The journey. And how a control freak CEO learned how to let his lieutenants take his business to the next level. Once again, it is about the journey. It's not just about the product. So how would you be able to create a compelling story for an entrepreneur if you don't have the accurate account of all of those milestones, of that journey, of the conversations? You really can't do it. So really showing us is the key, and collecting all of those elements is a part of that. But you're not expected to actually remember every single story. And so what I would suggest doing is before every single interview, because every interview is going to be different depending on who you're actually talking to. So before the interview, create a list of the 5 things you want to get across in that interview. Once you create that list of the 5 things that you want to get across, then think of multiple examples that you can use to show that particular point or each point. And then brainstorm all the different questions that you can use those examples for and make that point in. And here's an example of how to do that, just using the S2 example. Now, his first point was about he wanted to get across the inspiration for his company, what his company does, who he is, and that kind of thing. And so if you recall, he actually showed us. He showed us, by telling the story of growing up in a very positive household. He showed us by talking about the book he read, Richard Branson's Losing My Virginity. And he showed us the irony of a bald guy selling hair care products. And as for all of the questions that we could brainstorm, where he could share those examples, here are just a few. What inspired the name? What entrepreneur had a great impact on you? How deep does the positivity represented in your life and your brand actually go? If you've ever actually seen an interview with Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom, have you ever seen an interview with him? I'm sure many of you have. Do you always notice that no matter what the question, he has some sort of analogy or some sort of story to tell? It's absolutely amazing. My producer and I always used to joke that I bet you every morning and every night when he's brushing his teeth, he stands in front of the mirror and he practices storytelling. He thinks about his day, he thinks about those milestones, and he practices telling those stories over and over and over again. It's the only way I could explain how smooth he is in every single interview. You could just call him a politician, but he actually, I think, is above and beyond most politicians in that he really does create an emotional connection with his audience through storytelling. This is a great example. Victoria Barrett and I had talked to him about what were the 10 minutes that mattered in his entire career. And instead of just saying, it was, the lesson that he learned, which was the devil's in the details, he told us the story about this gum wrapper that he saw on the floor of the Rust Building. And he saw the owner of the Rust Building go over, and it became this big production that this one gum wrapper was on the floor. And that's how he showed me, and he showed Victoria. He created, the devil's in the details, and how he became detail-oriented was just through that experience. So I actually would suggest doing is what I think Gavin Newsom does, which is practice your storytelling. I don't care, stand in front of the mirror and practice, because storytelling, your success actually depends on it. So, thank you. And thank you for bearing with all my technical difficulties. It's only my second keynote I have ever done in my entire life, and only my first time actually using a PowerPoint presentation. Should I take questions, or
if
are we
anyone
good?
would like to answer a question, please line up at one of the mics and or scream out at this point.
I'm going to yell if that's okay.
Okay.
Hi. So I was really curious because you started off talking about pitches and those bad words, and I totally agree because they're just easy words basically. But when it came to yes to and I do, What was it that attracted you to him? I mean, did you get a compelling pitch? Did you hear about it from this other marketing person? What was the story there?
I had a really bad sunburn. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Summit Series, but they had the most amazing cruise. There were 1,000 entrepreneurs and executives, and it was just busy, busy, busy running around. And you know, I had gone straight from breakfast to this little island to get off on the island and go on a few excursions. And I forgot my sunscreen, and there was a little swag bag that they had sitting on there, and one of the products was Yes2 sunscreen. I lathered up. I'm a professional water skier, so I use sunscreen all the time, but I never would have thought that any sunscreen given on a cruise would not be waterproof. So I did every waterproof activity and didn't apply, and I was burnt to a crisp. And I was walking around for the next couple of days saying, where is this CEO of this company? I need to have words with him. And so it became the joke. And the day I actually got back from the cruise, ring, 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 my cell phone goes off, and it's him. And I was so embarrassed. I thought, oh my God, he heard that I was cursing his name on the ship. And he was like, hi, I'm Ito Loeffler. How are you? I was trying to meet you the whole cruise. He didn't hear a word of it. And so I just knew I had to meet him. And in meeting him, he's exactly as he is on camera in person. He was amazing. And so I wrote a Forbes magazine article and on him, and then did the video afterwards, which is why actually I think we had the chemistry on there. We could almost finish each other's sentences because I already knew all of his stories. So
Kym, we're actually a little pressed for time,
okay.
but I wanted to just say thank you, and can we give Kym McNicholas a round of applause?